I had always believed that diligence and focus were my greatest strengths, the reason I excelled in school while others struggled. I arrived early, stayed late, and never missed a lecture. Yet, nothing in my academic life had prepared me for the way Mr. Reynolds made my heart race the moment he entered the room. He had a quiet authority, a presence that drew attention without demanding it, and a charm that slipped under your skin without warning. At first, I told myself I was imagining it, that the way he looked at me, the small smiles he gave when I asked questions, were just polite gestures. But deep down, I knew there was something more. Our first real interaction happened after a literature lecture. I had stayed behind to ask about the symbolism in a poem I was analyzing. "You have a good eye for details," he said, leaning slightly over my notebook to point out a passage. His hand brushed mine as he turned the page, and an electric jolt ran through me. I told myself it was just accidental contact, but I couldn't stop noticing the warmth of his touch, the faint scent of his cologne that seemed to cling to me long after he stepped back. "Maybe I'm overthinking it," I whispered, more to myself than to him. "Not at all," he replied, his voice soft, calm, and deliberate. "It's good to question, to think deeply. That's what makes your analysis stand out." I nodded, trying to focus on the words on the poem, but my mind had already wandered. There was something magnetic about him, something that made concentration difficult and anticipation impossible to ignore. Over the next few weeks, our study sessions became a quiet ritual. I would linger after class, notebook in hand, while he patiently explained themes and ideas, leaning close just enough that I felt the brush of his arm against mine. Every touch, every glance, seemed weighted with unspoken intent. I caught myself imagining his hands lingering on my desk, on my arm, on me, and the thought both excited and frightened me. One afternoon, the campus was nearly deserted. Rain drummed softly against the windows of the library, creating a cocoon of privacy around us. We sat across from each other at a small table, papers and books scattered between us. "I don't understand this part," I admitted, tracing a line in my notebook with my pen. He leaned over, his knee touching mine under the table in what he surely thought was accidental. "Let me show you," he said, his finger tracing the words near mine. "See how the author contrasts desire and restraint. Notice the subtle tension." I tried to focus on the text, but it was impossible. The closeness of him, the warmth of his hand near mine, the soft timbre of his voice, it consumed me. I could feel my pulse quicken, and my chest tightened in anticipation. "Does this make sense?" he asked, glancing up at me, his eyes locking with mine. I nodded, though the words caught in my throat. "Yes," I whispered, but I knew he could feel my racing heartbeat. The tension grew over the following weeks. Each study session carried an undercurrent of something forbidden, something intoxicating. A hand brushed against mine while passing a notebook. A lingering glance across the table sent shivers down my spine. I found myself thinking about him constantly. The way he leaned in when he spoke, the quiet authority in his voice, the subtle curl of a smile that seemed meant just for me. One evening, after everyone else had left, we found ourselves alone in his office. The room was warm, lit softly by the golden glow of the desk lamp. "You've been pushing yourself too hard," he said gently, his eyes studying me. "You need a break." I tried to respond, but words failed me. My chest tightened, my palms grew clammy. He stepped closer, his hand brushing a stray strand of hair from my face. The contact was electric, sending heat through every nerve in my body. I don't know what you mean," I whispered, my lips trembling slightly. His smile was slow, deliberate, and magnetic. "I think you do," he murmured. His fingers traced the line of my jaw, lingering near my neck. My breath hitched, heart pounding. The realization struck me fully. He wasn't just noticing me. He wanted me, just as much as I wanted him. Our first kiss was tentative, exploratory. He leaned in, lips brushing mine lightly, testing boundaries. I responded instinctively, leaning closer, tasting him, feeling the warmth of his body pressed against mine. The heat spread instantly, a fire I hadn't known existed. His hands found the small of my back, pulling me closer, while my hands clutched at his shirt, desperate for the connection. After that night, everything changed. Our study sessions became a dangerous dance of stolen touches and fleeting glances. Under the guise of discussing essays, we explored each other in subtle ways. A hand on the knee, a whisper meant only for me, a shared look that spoke volumes. Each encounter heightened the tension. Each secret touch deepened our connection. Even with the thrill, there were moments of guilt and fear. What if someone saw? What if it ended badly? But the risk made every moment more electric. The library, the empty classroom, even quiet corners of campus became stages for our secret passion, and I found myself craving him more each day. By the time the semester reached its midpoint, I couldn't deny it anymore. I wanted him, not just the teacher who guided me through literature, but the man who had awakened something in me I couldn't control. Each encounter, each whispered word, was a step deeper into a world where nothing existed except us and the undeniable pull between us. The days after that first tentative kiss felt like a waking dream. I found myself counting the hours until our next study session, imagining every possible way our hands might brush, every stolen glance that might ignite the fire we had started. Nothing in my life had ever felt this intense, so forbidden, so thrilling, so utterly consuming. One evening, the campus was quiet, the sun dipping low in the sky, casting long shadows across the courtyard. I arrived at his office, my books clutched to my chest, trying to steady my racing heart. He was already there, leaning against the edge of his desk, a soft smile playing on his lips that made my knees weak. "You're early," he said, his voice casual, but the way his eyes lingered on me made it clear he noticed everything: my nervous hands, my quickened breath, the faint flush on my cheeks. I wanted to review the assignment before it's due," I stammered, setting my bag down and sliding into the chair across from him. He leaned closer, resting an elbow on the desk. "You've been working hard," he said softly. "Do you ever allow yourself to just relax?" I swallowed hard, unsure how to respond. The question wasn't about academics. It carried an undertone that made my pulse hammer in my chest. My eyes met his, and I could feel the tension, the silent understanding between us that this moment was different from all the others. As we reviewed the assignment, his hand brushed mine while passing a paper, lingering just a second too long. My breath caught, and I felt an electric shiver run through me. He noticed, of course. He always noticed. "Why are you trembling?" he asked, his tone low, teasing. I don't know," I whispered, feeling the heat in my cheeks. He smiled knowingly, leaning just close enough that the space between us seemed charged. "I think you do," he murmured, his fingers brushing against mine again. This time, I didn't pull away. Instead, I let the touch linger, letting the electricity between us grow stronger with every passing second. The study session turned into something else entirely. As we discussed literary themes, our hands continued to brush, his occasional touches leaving me breathless. Every explanation, every question, every shared laugh felt like a prelude to something more. I could see it in his eyes, the same desire I felt mirrored there, deep and undeniable. Finally, unable to resist any longer, he closed the distance between us. His hand cupped my cheek, thumb brushing over my lips, and I leaned into the touch instinctively. Our lips met again, slower this time, deeper, exploring with a hunger that had been building for weeks. My hands found his shoulders, gripping tightly, as the intensity of the kiss sent waves of heat through me. When he pulled back slightly, just enough to look into my eyes, his voice was a low whisper. "You have no idea how long I've wanted this." I've wanted it too," I admitted, my voice trembling, my heart racing. From that moment, everything escalated. Our encounters became bolder, more daring. A hand on my thigh under the table, a lingering touch on my back as he passed behind me, a whispered word in the library that made my pulse pound. Each secret interaction deepened our connection, both physical and emotional. We existed in a world where only we mattered, where every glance, every touch, carried meaning and desire. One rainy night, We were alone again in his office. The rain tapped softly against the windows, creating a private cocoon around us. He pulled me close, our bodies pressing together. His hands roamed over me, memorizing every curve, every shiver of response. I felt utterly consumed, lost in the heat of the moment. "You're incredible," he whispered against my ear, and I shivered. "I can't stop thinking about you." "I can't stop thinking about you either," I admitted, pressing myself closer. The intensity built quickly, his lips exploring mine, his hands drawing me closer, our bodies pressed together in a dance of desire we could no longer deny. Every touch, every kiss, was a declaration of longing, a surrender to something wild and forbidden. I felt myself melting into him, craving more with every heartbeat. Even with the intensity, there was tenderness. He held me close, whispered words that made me feel cherished, safe, and wanted all at once. The passion was undeniable, but beneath it was a connection that went deeper than mere lust, a bond of trust, of shared secrets, of a love that defied reason. As the semester continued, we became masters of subtlety. In class, our glances met with meaning, our small touches hidden under the guise of normalcy. The thrill of secrecy made every encounter hotter, every touch more electric. Each stolen moment strengthened our connection, making it impossible to imagine life without him. By now, our study sessions were no longer just about literature. They were a pretext, a way to be close, to explore the tension that had grown too strong to ignore. Each evening together felt like stepping into a private world where nothing else existed, just us, the heat between us, and the undeniable pull of desire that neither of us could resist. The following week felt endless. Every glance in class, every moment we passed each other in the hallway carried a hidden weight, an unspoken reminder of what had begun. I could feel his eyes on me even when he wasn't looking directly, a tension that made it impossible to focus on anything but the thought of him. My notebooks, once full of careful notes and observations, were now scattered with doodles and scribbled lines, reminders of the fluttering anticipation that had taken over my mind. One evening, the campus was unusually quiet. The sun had set, leaving only the dim glow of streetlights filtering through the office window. I arrived, my heart already racing, anticipating what the evening might bring. He greeted me with a slow smile, his eyes locking on mine in a way that made my chest ache with longing. "Come in," he said softly. The office door clicked shut behind me, shutting out the world, and leaving only the two of us. His hand found mine almost immediately, fingers intertwining as he guided me closer. The electricity between us was palpable, and I felt myself trembling with a mixture of desire and nerves. We started with study notes, his hand occasionally brushing mine as we reached for papers or pointed to passages. Each touch lingered longer than necessary, and I caught myself leaning closer, craving contact. His voice, soft and deliberate, carried a subtle undertone that made my thoughts scatter. "You're working too hard," he murmured, his fingers grazing the back of my hand. "Let yourself relax." I tried to respond, but words failed me. My pulse raced, my body alive with awareness of him so close. He leaned forward, and without warning, his lips met mine. This time, the kiss was deeper, more insistent, a dance of passion and restraint. My hands found his shoulders, pulling him closer, as his hands explored the small of my back, drawing me into him completely. As the evening continued, the tension escalated. His hands roamed carefully but deliberately, memorizing every curve, every shiver of response. I felt a heat rising within me that I had never known, a mix of fear, excitement, and undeniable longing. Every brush of skin, every whispered word, heightened the intensity, making it impossible to think of anything else. We moved with a careful rhythm, teasing, exploring, yet always aware of the danger of being caught. The thrill of secrecy made each touch more electric, each kiss more intoxicating. In the quiet of his office, we surrendered to desire, our bodies pressing together, every motion charged with need. I felt consumed, lost in the sensation, yet completely safe in his arms. Even as the physicality grew, so did the emotional connection. Between kisses and touches, we spoke in whispers about our dreams, fears, and the unspoken understanding that bound us together. There was a tenderness beneath the intensity, a depth of care that made the passion even more profound. I realized then that this was more than lust. It was a connection that went beyond the physical, a bond of trust, intimacy, and desire intertwined. Over the following weeks, our encounters became bolder. A hand on my thigh during a discussion, a brush of fingers along my arm as we reached for books, a whispered comment in the library that made my stomach flutter. All of it built a tension that could no longer be contained. Each stolen moment became a declaration of longing, a reminder of the secret world we shared. One night, the rain tapped steadily against the window, creating a cocoon of privacy. He pulled me into his lap, our bodies pressed together, and kissed me with a fervor that left me breathless. His hands moved with purpose, tracing every curve, memorizing every shiver of response. I surrendered completely, letting the desire consume me, feeling more alive than I ever had before. Even as the intensity reached its peak, there was still an undercurrent of tenderness. He held me close, whispered words that made me feel cherished, adored, and wanted. Every touch, every kiss, was a declaration of our connection, a forbidden flame that burned hotter because it was hidden from the world. The secrecy itself became a part of the passion. Knowing that we could not be seen, that each encounter was stolen, heightened every sensation. Every glance across the classroom, every subtle touch, carried meaning, a private language between us that no one else could understand. It was intoxicating, thrilling, and utterly consuming. By now, our relationship was no longer just physical. We shared confidences, laughed at private jokes, and comforted each other in moments of vulnerability. The passion remained, but it was enriched by an emotional depth that made every touch, every kiss, every stolen moment feel essential. I couldn't imagine life without him, couldn't imagine a day where his presence didn't ignite that fire within me. Even with the danger, the fear, the guilt, we continued. The thrill of being caught, the risk of exposure, only made each encounter more electric. Each session together was a blend of desire, love, and secrecy, a dance we both knew we could never abandon. In the quiet moments, holding each other close, we acknowledged the undeniable truth. What we shared was extraordinary, forbidden, and completely consuming. The semester was drawing to a close, yet our secret affair had only grown stronger. Each encounter had deepened the bond between us, blending desire, intimacy, and a connection that felt almost impossible to describe. We had become adept at reading each other's signals, understanding when to hold back and when to surrender completely. The thrill of secrecy had become a part of our passion, a shared understanding that heightened every touch, every kiss, every stolen moment. One evening, the campus was empty, the soft hum of the heating system and the distant patter of rain the only sounds in the building. I arrived at his office, my heart racing in anticipation. He greeted me with that slow, knowing smile that always made my knees weak. His eyes held a warmth and intensity that left me breathless. "Come here," he said softly, extending his hand. I moved toward him without hesitation, letting him guide me into the familiar intimacy we had cultivated over weeks of secrecy. His hands found my waist, pulling me close, and our lips met in a kiss that was both tender and urgent. The fire that had been building between us ignited fully, and I felt every nerve in my body come alive. We didn't speak, letting our bodies communicate in the way we had learned over countless stolen encounters. His hands traced my curves, memorizing every shiver, every gasp of response. I pressed myself closer, surrendering completely to the heat and desire that had been simmering for so long. Each motion was deliberate, each kiss a promise, each touch a confirmation of the deep, unspoken connection we shared. Even in the intensity of our passion, there was tenderness. He held me close between kisses, whispering soft words that made me feel cherished, safe, and wanted in a way I had never experienced before. The emotional bond we had formed elevated every physical interaction, making each touch, each kiss, each stolen moment feel extraordinary. After what felt like hours, we finally rested, tangled together on the sofa in his office. Our breaths mingled, our hearts beating in sync, and for a moment, the world outside ceased to exist. In that quiet, intimate space, I realized that what we had was more than desire. It was connection, understanding, and a love that, while forbidden, was undeniable. As the semester ended, we knew our secret world could not be fully public, yet the bond we had formed was unbreakable. Every glance across a crowded room, every subtle touch in passing, carried the memory of our passion and intimacy. We had created a private sanctuary, a world where desire and emotion intertwined, and nothing else mattered. Even now, I could feel the warmth of his hands, the taste of his lips, the thrill of our forbidden moments. Our affair had been dangerous, yes, but it had also been intoxicating, a flame that burned hotter because it existed in secret. And though the world outside demanded rules and propriety, in our private moments, we knew the truth. Our desire, our love, and the intensity of our connection could never be denied. We had begun with study sessions, moved through temptation and seduction, and arrived at a place where passion and tenderness coexisted in perfect harmony. Our secret affair was a world unto itself, and though it remained hidden, it had changed me forever, leaving me craving more, longing for the next stolen moment, and forever remembering the fire that had been ignited between us. And in those quiet, private moments, I realized that some connections are too strong to ever be forgotten, too intense to ever truly end.